Hi everybody, it's David from Doctors of Running. We have another comparison video here today. We're going to be in the performance trainer line. Today we have the Skechers Razor 4. This shoe comes in at 30 millimeters of stack in the heel, 26 millimeters of stack in the forefoot. We are looking at a 4 millimeter drop. They use Hyperburst Pro, a new midsole they're debuting, a TPU based midsole, as well as a carbon infused forefoot plate that runs basically like a little H plate up front. This shoe comes in at 7.5 ounces, men's size 9. It's going to be up against the HOKA Mach 5 today. HOKA Mach 5 coming in at a listed 8.2 ounces, 5 millimeter drop platform. We don't have the specifications on how high the heel is or how high the forefoot is. So what I want to take a look at first, let's take a look at the fit and the upper. If I hold them up next to each other, you can see they both run a little bit on the wide side, probably in the forefoot, but they both streamline pretty well through the midfoot. When I have it on foot, I would probably say the HOKA fits a little bit more snug when you lace it down through the heel and through the midfoot. Forefoot's pretty accommodating overall. The mesh feels light, engineered, like not too much stretch to it, locks down pretty well. When I look at the Razor, it does have a little bit more stretch to it. That's one thing I've noticed. Tongue is also thin, locks down pretty well. You have like a slight heel counter there in both of them. A little bit more rigid in the Mach 5 versus the Razor 4. But overall, it feels a little bit more daily trainer actually in the Razor 4, even though it's a performance trainer. It keeps it, it's still on the lighter end, but it has kind of a little bit more of a plush feeling to it, outside of the tongue and the lockdown elsewhere on the lacing system. When we take a look at the ride, there is some differences here. So when we take a look at the new Hyperburst Pro, even though it's still like an infused TPU, it has a little bit of bounce and a little bit of give to it, but it still runs a little bit on the firmer side. With that said, with the forefoot plate, it does have a little bit of pop off at the front, but if you're running at slower paces, you don't really notice it quite as much. So the versatility of the Razor, in my opinion, actually has come up into that daily training category, where before I considered it pretty much exclusively performance training potential race / non-plated flat, where this has now become more of a genuine performance trainer that I could take out for workouts. The Mach 5 is also in a similar category. For me, it feels a little bit softer on foot. No plate in this one, still a stiff rocker that HOKA brings in most of its models. Tiny bit of flexibility, there's some flex grooves. Gently rocker design throughout. It has a little bit more flex when you load it. ProFly also stiffens up a little bit as you move forward into the forefoot, but not quite as much as like what a plate would do. So when we take a look at the Razor 4, this is a shoe that really responds a little bit more when you load it. You get a lot more bounce off of the forefoot. At daily efforts, it kind of just feels like a lightweight trainer, to be honest. It doesn't really feel like anything overly revolutionary, but when you start turning it over, it comes alive a little bit more, and it's a shoe that you definitely can use as a training companion. It's very versatile. One thing I've noticed, traction on it is actually pretty good, but with the upper having that little bit of stretch to it, I don't always trust it as well when I'm in like dirt or grass or doing those types of workouts. If it's good footing and it's predictable and it's hard packed, I mean, I'm sure it'll do just fine, but if you're doing a lot of steep turns and things like that, kind of more cross-country style workouts, that you might have a little bit of a hard time there. I do think the lockdown and lack of stretch in the Mach's a little better. However, I feel like you turn over a little bit better in the Razor 4. The Mach 5, for me, a little bit better for long runs, time on feet, daily training efforts even, long tempo runs, where the Razor 4 it can be a little bit more like on the upper end, long tempo runs, regular lactate threshold, tempo runs, and even intervals if you need to. I've been able to take this shoe pretty fast on the road and do some real hard strides in it. It feels just fine. For me, that sweet spot for the Razor can be anywhere from like, at the fastest, maybe like 5K pace up to half marathon, even marathon pace work type things, where the Mach 5 is a little bit more like maybe at the fastest 10K pacing and up to full marathon and beyond. So they're both performance trainers, both light on the foot, both respond pretty well overall. It's again going to depend on the runner and what you want. So that's what we got for the Skechers Razor 4 in comparison with the HOKA Mach 5.